Right, recording. Hi, Susannah. How are
Hi
you?
Dan, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, good. So, hello, Brew Ed FE. So Susannah and I thought we would get together to talk about everyone's favourite topic, which is family learning, and obviously
Yay for family learning.
quite a hot topic at the moment, with lots of us juggling the pressures of our day to day, 9 till 5, as well as looking after kids and trying to keep them learning in the home environment at the same time. So, Susannah, do you want to tell us a bit about who you are and what family learning means to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've worked in family learning for the last 15 years or so. I started out managing a family learning service at a large local authority for 9 years, so managing the provision in over 100 schools. I then went into a national role across England and Wales with what was NIACE as policy lead for family learning, intergenerational learning and community learning. So I am from an FE background as well as ACL. And then following that, I've set up a platform called Families Learning, which is an online space. And I am delighted to be presenting later this year at the European Basic Skills Network conference on family learning and its role in the gig economy and new ways of working. So yeah, still very much involved.
Fantastic.
And obviously working with yourselves in Manchester.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I've been involved with family learning probably for it's about 12 years, something like that now. So I've taught family learning and then managed it in various capacities. And then I'm currently one of the senior managers at Manchester Adult Education Service, and we've got one of the largest family learning offers in the country. So something that's very important to what we do is key part of our offer there in Manchester. So we thought we'd call our chat that we're doing for Brew Ed FE, we thought we'd call it Family Learning Just Got Serious. So what did we mean when we came up with that title?
I think it kind of links back really to you asking me what does family learning mean to me. I mean, it's obviously I'm from a kind of practitioner and as well as a management background with family learning, but I mean the official kind of term from a policy perspective is that family learning's activity where there are learning outcomes for kids as well as adults. So obviously there's all kinds of kind of pedagogical kind of teaching stuff to unpack from that, but that kind of from a policy perspective is where I've been involved in looking at it.
Totally, and it's quite a misunderstood thing, isn't it, family learning?
For sure, yeah.
I don't know about in your experience, but I think it's something that often feels it has to justify its existence. So what we thought we'd do is to have two myths, so a couple of myths about family learning, and then talk about the opportunity that these strange times might bring for family learning as well.
Yeah, so, sounds good.
Yeah, so I'm going to have the first myth, if that's okay, and one that I'd like to debunk. And it's one that's frustrated me for some time, and it is the myth that family learning is easy to teach. So it's all glitter and glue, and basically it's a dumbed down version of adult education. It just happens to be delivered in schools and children's centres. Okay, so I've taught various things within my career, mainly up to level 3, and I would say that arguably family learning is the hardest thing that I've taught in some ways. Now I think it's easy to do family learning badly. Fair enough. That is true. It is easy to do that kind of easy version of something just in a particular context. But to really deliver something which has got positive outcomes and got learning outcomes for a child and for an adult, whilst being non-patronising, I think is a really difficult thing to get right. Very satisfying when you do get it right, but often doesn't quite go as planned. Well, what's your experience on that?
Oh yeah, 100% agree with you. And I mean, the number of observations of teaching and learning as well I was involved with over the years, both in an FE context and local authority. And I think it is one of the most underrated, under-acknowledged areas of adult learning, and delivery from an FE perspective as well. I think you kind of tend to fall into two camps really, in terms of looking at it as being a kind of like you say, dumbed down, played down adult learning variant, that almost is sort of, not quite up to doing a full course, therefore they might dabble a bit in family learning. And actually what you're talking about, all the stuff around bonding, communication, real relationship stuff, that really has the potential to make or break this learning in households across the country, across the world, in the way that we're currently experiencing with the pandemic, is absolutely crucial stuff, very complex family dynamics. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I know my family learning skills have been put to work this week, and it reminded me that I think there is a difference, I think, between family learning and the home learning environment to homeschooling.
Yeah, for sure.
And I know through social media and so on, there's been lots of people talking about how they're having to replace their teacher at the moment. Whereas that's not really the challenge that family learning lays down, is it? Family learning is about developing a home learning environment in which you maintain the role of parent, but you almost use your own learning as kind of the hook for your children. And I've seen that with my children this week, where it's been much more effective when I've been learning something alongside the children than me trying to take them through whatever it is that they're supposed to be doing within their developmental stage.
Yeah, definitely. And I think related to that, I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of activity on social this last couple of weeks since the school closures, where people are very evidently sounding panicked, whether they're parents, carers, teachers, school leaders, whoever. And I think you're right. I think a lot of that anxiety and the panic seems to be linking to this kind of mindset that people are almost kind of imposing on themselves very often, thinking that they have to kind of pick up that gauntlet and be the teacher. And actually, where family learning's got a really unique and key strength in the FE adult learning sector, as well as from a school perspective, is it's placing that power with the parent and the carer. Which, let's face it, in terms of the home learning environment, is where there needs to be that influence and involvement anyway, even if you're looking at it pre-COVID in terms of getting homework done, there has to be that confidence, and that sense of ownership, of being involved with that learning process, even at a basic level for children, to make that kind of progression in the way that they can fulfill their potential, as well as you say, as well as the adults, being lifelong learners and getting the most out of that experience. And I think a lot of that is, let's face it, let's be honest, in the sector, we all know budgets are tight, we're all very busy, we're very proud of the work we do, and we put a lot of time and investment into becoming specialists in our field. And I think it's really important that people are aware that family learning is all about complementing what all these key partners are doing. It is 100% not about replacing the expertise of teachers, or indeed about the provision offered through organisations such as yourselves in Manchester. This is all about actually empowering and enabling these families to really identify with being a part of their children's learning journey. And all that's going to do, really, if people are welcoming of that and accept that involvement, that is going to make everybody's life so much easier.
Yeah. And of course, we're talking to the FE sector, and perhaps the other thing that family learning can come in for some stick for is that, should it be the FE sector that delivers family learning? So I've got some thoughts on that. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, go for it. I'm interested to see what you've got.
So, I think where family learning gets misunderstood is that people either think it's only about the adult learning outcomes, and therefore all it amounts to really is kind of an engagement strategy, or it's only about the child's learning outcomes, in which case it will be better done by schools, or perhaps health, but certainly not further education. But I think the point that is sometimes missed is that family learning is trying to be more ambitious than that, and enable both the child and the parent to develop. And further education remains the most comprehensive form of education there is. So better sector to deliver it.
Yeah, I agree with you, and obviously, I think sometimes as well people forget, family learning is not just some kind of little tin pot provision that's run up the road somewhere, and they forget that actually this provision that is delivered is extremely high quality, where it's delivered well. And it's also an international operation. You're aware, I've done work over in the States, linking with people doing this stuff. It's got a European profile. There is so much of this stuff going on out there, so much best practice, really significant evidence base, which of course, in terms of government and policymakers and treasury and so forth, I think that this whole, experience that everybody's going through COVID is really going to bring it, hopefully, to the attention that the home learning environment, family learning approach is no longer an optional thing. This is about future-proofing our education system, whatever the system appears to look like. Sorry, I looked a bit like Dr. Evil from Austin Powers, didn't I? That wasn't a good move. So I do agree with you. I think there's all kinds of complex learning processes going on in family learning, which frankly cannot be achieved in full in other areas of the system. And of course we shouldn't overlook the fact that particularly where there are families perhaps that have got lower skills levels, which is of course where all the kind of funding and targeting has been focused for many years, actually we should never ever underestimate the power of those children to teach their parents and carers. As an intergenerational.
We'd better wrap it up there, I think. But shall we leave people with one tip? So if we could give them a family learning tip for the current situation that we find ourselves in, what would it be?
Yep. So my tip would be, let's just be a bit more open-minded about how we can collaborate, and maybe just relax a bit and think, okay, maybe they're not trying to question what my role in this process is. Maybe we can learn something from each other in helping the families in this way. Yeah. And how about yours?
I think my tip, a tip for parents, I think, as much as anything. But I think the thing that sprung to mind to me this week is, let's not forget about our own learning, because our own learning is important to ourselves, but as parents it's also really inspiring for children.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, cheers, Brew.
Yeah. All right, cheers. See you soon.
See ya.